Hey, what is going on, everybody? This is your boy Mike Jacks with eXp Realty. I'm a real estate agent based in Orlando, Florida, and today I am making a video about inspection. So I'm going to cover a few tips for buyers agents. I'm representing a buyer and I have an inspection today, so I arrived a little early, and I'm going to go over a few tips for any realtors out there, especially if you're brand new. This is a good video for you, and even if you're not brand new, it's just good to refresh and hear some additional information because everybody kind of does things differently. All right, so let's jump into it. So here's a few tips that buyers agents want to make sure that they do when they're doing an inspection, when they're in the inspection period for their buyer. So number one thing, you definitely want to make sure you're present. There are things that come up because in our world, we are very, very busy. We get a lot of things that come about, and sometimes we might not be able to make. If that is the case, make sure you work with the listing agent to be able to access the property for the inspector. Most people have what they call a lockbox with the super key access, and then the listing agent should be able to have a code that the inspector can use to be able to get in. So, but most of the time, I try to beat to all my inspections as much as possible. I rarely miss an inspection. It's important because when you're physically there, you're gonna get some details that, even though the report outlines those details, it's nothing like being physically there to see it for yourself. So you learn a lot more about it. And plus, if you're a brand new agent or you're just starting, the more inspections you attend, the more you start to learn about the home process, things that are not right, and it improves your knowledge on the home. So it's best to attend. Another key point is that you want to make sure you provide a list of inspectors for your client. So what I do is I do work with probably a minimum 3 inspectors, and I make sure I recommend them. The reason being is you don't want to be liable if that potentially happens. Like if you have a friend that's an inspector and you put that friend on to the buyer and say, hey, I recommend this person, although they might do a good job, although they might be great, you're a great friend, if there's something that comes about, you don't want the buyer to have the perception that, hey, you gave me this option, so I went and trusted you. I allow the buyer to have the flexibility and freedom to choose the type of inspector they want based on the pricing, based on the type of reviews that they research, so that way they choose their inspector. I just connect them to it. Same thing with the home. I just connect them to a home, I advise them, I give them guidance, but I would never tell them, hey, this is what you should do, because at the end of the day, it's their decision. And so that way, if they choose the inspector, they're more comfortable with it, and that kind of avoids a lot of headaches. But you have to use your own judgment on that. But me, I recommend having at least 3 inspectors to give to the potential buyer, and then let them choose it. Also, I should have said this first, but I'm gonna say it now. Make sure you arrive early as a buyer's agent. So when you're entering the inspection period and you're representing the buyer, you want to arrive early, because if you get there late, it just kind of looks unprofessional, and it kind of makes look like you don't really prioritize the buyer. So you just want to give the buyer that confidence that you're there, and plus you can kind of check and do your own little mini inspection. I have a checklist of an inspection, some things I look for, that I go around and look at the house prior to the inspector coming there and the buyer. That way I'm already knowledgeable. I kind of educate myself, and then it helps me to be able to intake the information that I get based upon the report from the inspector. So that way I'm already being proactive and ahead of the curve, and I'm looking out for the best interest for my buyer. Lastly, I won't say lastly, I got 2 more quick points. Next to lastly, I should say, you definitely want to make sure that once the inspection is completed, you want to get the inspection report in as soon as possible, and make sure you schedule your inspection in a timely manner. It's big to schedule it, okay? That's huge. Make sure you schedule it well. So if you have a standard 10-day inspection, right, you want to make sure you have that inspection as soon as possible, hopefully day 1, day 2. I've always prepped my buyers to get the inspection done first day if they can. I've already given them a list. I have consultations, so prior to going into contract, they already have an idea of the schedule of the inspectors. Once they pick the inspector they want to go with, they already know their schedule, so then they can arrange that once we get an offer accepted. And the reason why scheduling is so big is because if you have 10 days to get inspection done and you wait till day 8, day 9 later on, it's crunch time, and sometimes sellers, agents aren't always responsible because they're busy as well. So you got to really, really put your buyer at an advantage. The earlier you get that report over to the seller, what needs to be repaired or replaced or whatnot, the better it is and advantageous for your buyer. And lastly, when you go into inspections, you really want to avoid giving a long laundry list of things that need to be repaired. There's a lot of cosmetic issues. Remember, you're buying a house as it is. So if you're buying a house as it is with an as-is contract, you're agreeing to take the house as it is. However, there are major issues that have to be addressed, and the seller should be obligated to fix those issues. And hopefully they come to an agreement to where they'll do such. But if it's little cosmetic stuff, you're not getting a brand new house, so you can't expect close to perfection. You have to take the house as is. If there's like a little latch missing from a door handle or something minor, that is what it is. But if you have major issues like dealing with the roof, electrical, plumbing, HVAC, air condition, those type of things, like if you have a hot water in the home that's not working, or you have roof issues with elevated moisture, those are things that you want to look at. So those 5 categories that I just said, with the roof, the AC, the HVAC, the plumbing, and electrical, those are major issues, and you want to make sure that's addressed properly in your inspection report. And I want to throw this in real quick. Buyers agents, make sure you prep and groom your buyer about inspection periods. If you've never done one, make sure you get with a realtor in your team or your company or your brokerage that has done one and get some tips, because when you go to an inspection, there's a lot of things that you want to do and be aware of and knowledgeable about, so you can help alleviate your buyer's concerns. I always take notes, and when I take notes, I take detailed notes. I'm always talking with the inspector, and we're having conversations. I let them do their work. I'm not clouding them. I'm not shadowing them, but I am getting detailed information. So I'll ask them, hey, is this a red flag from your synopsis? Things like that. So make sure you give the inspector some space, but you're staying close enough in proximity to where you're engaging with them. And I'm not going to get into too much whether your buyer should be there the entire time. That's up to discretion. Me personally, I encourage my buyer to be there the whole time because they can see everything. But some people prefer to come to the end, and that way, you know, they can get an overall report. But it's a good tool to use to build relationships with your buyer, because you show them not only how your value is, you can also be there and walk it step by step with them. So that's just what I do, but to each his own. If you want your buyer to come at the end, or if they're not able to show up, at least make sure you're present and do your best to be present. So I hope this video helps you. If you have any more questions, concerns, or comments, please feel free to put it in the comments, and subscribe to my channel, folks. Hit that thumbs up, and I'm going to be bringing you some more real estate content soon. All right. So I'll also provide my business link in the description below, so that way you can reach me. And I hope this video brings value to you. So before I go, make sure you guys, I encourage you, for buyers, if you are buying a home, get an inspection done. Put it this way. I'm going to leave you with this. The biggest expense that you'll have is the one that you don't spend. And what I mean by that is, if you don't pay to get an inspection because you're trying to save a few $100, you're going to pay for it in the long run when you discover your house had more issues than it did, you know, beyond the surface of how good it looks. So you better go ahead and pay that few $100 now, know what's going on with the house, and try to get those issues resolved, because no home is going to be perfect. Then to spend thousands on it later, and it might cost you an arm and a leg. All right. So hope this video helps. I want to hit these details spot on real quick, and I'm getting ready to go get to my inspection. We're getting ready to start it now. All right, guys. Hope you all have a blessed day. Take care, and I'll see you soon.